Hello, everyone, and a warm welcome to you all joining from 5 continents today again in this series of webinars that gears you with energy and actionable insights to lead at your best in this crisis and beyond. We've discussed along the 8 previous webinars lots of important themes linked to leadership in crisis, right? Well-being, performance, teamwork, strategy. Today, we go deeper and further, deeper into your fabric as a leader and further in time beyond this crisis as we tackle a very ambitious theme, which is why and how you should reinvent your leadership with your artistic mind. And the reason why I've chosen to offer this topic to your thoughts today is because I believe that this crisis is a very healthy wake-up call to all of us leaders to reinvent the way we lead. But of course, I would love to know what you think and what you believe. So let me invite you to do something we've done quite a bit over the last few webinars together, right? It's use that menti.com platform. You can easily scan the QR code you see here, or just type menti.com and the digit code 9213297, or type, click on the link that Teddy has put in the chat box, and there you will find 2 questions, right? The first question is this crisis requesting that we reinvent the way we lead, in your opinion? Yes, no, don't know. And second question, I think we must reinvent the way we lead to get more of this, or to improve that, right? So it's second question is about the outcome. Now, let me take you to the platform so we can see together what's coming up. So here we go. You started voting. Thanks very much for your cooperation. Let's see this full screen. So is this crisis requesting that we reinvent the way we lead? So not sure, 2 so far. Yes, 13 already, and more coming up. Get ready for the next question, which is, I think we must reinvent the way we lead to get more of this or improve that, right? Let's move to the second question. Here we go with the second question. So that's an invitation for you to put 1 or 2 words, perhaps, about what you think a leadership reinvention should deliver, right? In terms of we get more of this, or we improve that as a result of reinventing our leadership. Hey, let's see what's coming up. It's a word cloud, right? And here you start sharing. Thank you so very much. Always fascinating. So we have support, productivity, relevance, communication, compassion, trust. Trust was a winner 2 weeks ago in our previous webinar, right? Self-determination, freedom of choice, listening, agility, do differently, collaboration, productivity, engagement, original ideas, and there's more coming, right? And so far, big titles are trust, efficiency, motivation, collaboration, compassion, empathy. So very, very interesting, and keep going at it. I know not everyone has yet had the time. We'll send you the PDF of the poll results so you can read it at your convenience. Now, allow me to share something that may be a bit provocative, but is necessary. And I think it's a series of photos that are linked with my why we need to reinvent our leadership. And here we go. So in this situation, right, what could help? You remember Anne Frank, when she was in a concentration camp, said what kept her going was not to look at the misery all around, but to look at the beauty that remains. Well, that can help, perhaps. And, also Nelson Mandela famously said, humans' goodness is a flame that can be hidden, but never be extinguished, right? Maybe that can help. That's not going far enough, though. Huh? So what else could help? Let me share a bit of what we're seeing more and more of these days in business publication. And I'll start with Korn Ferry, most recent magazine, in fact, where they talk about reimagining a brighter future. They also talk about exploring the unknown. Interesting. Now, let's turn to Boston Consulting Group. In their most recent publication, actually, they make the point that unprecedented complexity forces strategic planning reinvention. And there you go, reimagination, reinvention. And they argue that thinking biologically is really necessary, even if it yields messy management. But that's what we've got to go for, they argue, in a complex world. And their case is basically, we have no choice but to think in multi-level systems for highly interconnected problems. They also argue that we operate on multiple timescales simultaneously, and we've got to compete on imagination, making contact with the unknown. They're not talking about alien, obviously, right? They're focusing on anomalies, using counterfactual as well as factual skills, and leveraging cognitive diversity, plus, of course, shaping collaborative solutions, because collective intelligence is absolutely necessary. No one is smart enough to figure out alone the best way forward, right? Now, Harvard Business Review made the case for disruptive thinking and says that we need more imagination than ever. And they invite leaders to carve out time for reflection, operate with active listening and open questions, allow themselves to be playful. Interesting, yeah. Setting up a system for sharing ideas, okay. Seeking out the anomalous and the unexpected, quite linked to what BCG is saying as well, right? Encouraging experimentation and staying hopeful. Now, that's all obviously very helpful. What else could help? Because this is not going to go far enough, in my opinion. And perhaps we want to keep in mind that we've got, as humans, some competition, right? After all, which parts of your work and my job will remain after AI has cloned parts of it, right? course, we've got to develop a passion and a high curiosity quotient, which Thomas Friedman says are the two main qualities he's looking for if he's going to hire some people, way more important than intelligence quotient, right? And then of course, we've got to agree with the fact that empathy that you highlighted in the poll we did quite strongly is becoming a very important part of the jobs that are going to remain after the rest have been closed by AI, right? And obviously, we've got to unleash abstract thinking based on what we were just talking about that BCG and HBR mentioned, right? And partner with our right brain, creative brain, right? Now, my point is this is all necessary. This is not enough. We've got to go deeper because you see, we may well partner with our intuition, like Albert Einstein said long time ago, which is a sacred gift, right? Which should not be a servant to our rational mind. But if we use the way of thinking, the way of being, the way of leading, the way of coaching we've used so far, well, sanity is going to be all the same, right? With the same way of approaching the challenges we face that we used before, we'll probably have similar outcomes. That's not going to cut it. We've got to reinvent at a deeper level the fabric of who we are and how we lead. And that's where I'd like to invite artistry in our conversation and show you Picasso at work. And my invitation to you is, as you watch Picasso, could you please write in the chat box what's coming up to your mind about artistry? Here we go. And yay, now you can see Picasso winked at you, right? So my point is mastery in leadership, in coaching, in expertise is not going to be enough to reinvent the way we lead, we coach to help create a better world, right? Artistry will be necessary, and thanks a lot for all the input that's coming up in the chat box. And I can see there are so many ways to describe artistry and mastery. Let me try to share just a few simple ideas about mastery, right? And I'd say, you master at your craft as a leader or as a coach when you effortlessly and flawlessly use the techniques that you've learned, right? You've got a profound knowledge of your craft. And as you practice it, you develop judgment, right? Judgment of people, of situations, of situational dynamics, right? And that is the beginning of the development of wisdom. Yeah. Now, artistry is anchored in mastery, right? You're not going to be an artist painter if in the first place you cannot master the drawing of a human face that really people can recognize, right? Artistry is anchored to your mastery, but then of course it unleashes your imagination. It does not seek perfection or correctness. And as you could see, Picasso, after drawing his flower bouquet, right, used his fingers to kind of make things a little bit more dirty, a little bit less perfect, and all the more charming, right? Of course, and very importantly, your artistry is going to be original and distinctive of you, And if you're thinking of developing a value proposition for the future as a leader, as a coach, as a business person, you can see why that would matter, right? Artistry, of course, is remembered over time and inspires across cultures, I would say. But then there's something even more important is when you have developed your own artistry, you've developed many more degrees of freedom in the way you coach, you lead, in fact, right? And that is the most precious gift you can offer yourself. And with that freedom, then you can look at the unknown as compelling inspiration for positive disruption, right? Because you're not constrained anymore by some things you've learned from your culture or your education or other people, right? And the next point I would like to make with you is all about how we can unleash more of our inner artist. And just to make a business point as we get into this part of our conversation today. You know, Tony Fernandez, right? He's the CEO of Asia for the last 20 years. Now, beginning of this year, of course, Asia got to almost a halt, right? And that was not much fun for Tony. He had a bit more time on his hands. And you know what he did? He reverted to his passion as a young man for music. And actually, he sent people like me this email. What do we do when we can't find international? His point was, well, for me, I'm doing I'm doing a bit of what I love, right? Finding artists and getting them known. And he did so. And then, very interestingly, last week, I think Asia announced that they had revamped very deeply their business model in a very significant way. And to me, it sounded like perhaps the audacity of Tony Fernandez was really helping there, and probably it was purposeful, his move to unleash his artistry. Now, let's focus.
I really encourage.
And just before that, and we're going to do some exercises together, right? To unleash some of your artistry. I want to invite you to listen to Lady Gaga. Yes, we listened to her 2 weeks ago. Here she comes again with a very precious word of advice. This lady is so profound. It's always good to listen at what she has to say. And here she says something that can get you thinking.
I really encourage people to look into the darkness and look into places that you would not normally look to find uniqueness and specialness, because that's where the diamonds are hiding.
So in essence, she said that to reach the inner artist, the artist within you, you've got to go deep because it's been belittled by so many things such as education, expected behaviors, and more. And it's in dark places, in fact. And she says that, we've got to really dig deep to find uniqueness and specialness. So now I have the biggest challenge for you in this whole series of webinars so far, right? And this challenge is to look deep within yourself and draw what Lady Gaga calls diamonds of uniqueness and specialness that you can find there, in fact. So my invitation is obviously to reconnect with your artistic mind and just with the joy of a child, right? Take a pen, a piece of paper, right? Something to just draw whatever comes to your mind. It's a very difficult exercise, probably uncomfortable. That's part of the experience I want to offer, actually, right? The invitation is draw the diamonds of uniqueness and specialness that are within you, right? So perhaps with more simple words, I could say, close your eyes, reflect deep, ask yourself, what's really unique, what's really special about me as a person? Let's go with a little bit of music for a minute or two of that experiment. Thank you very much for playing the game. For some of you, perhaps for all of you, and for me too, it's not easy, is it? Yeah. So my question is, how did you feel along your quest for your uniqueness and your specialness? Feel free to share in the chat box, right? I would expect for many it would be quite uncomfortable, like blank, right? I had a blank. I had no idea what to do with my hands and this pen and this piece of paper. Nothing was coming up. And that's possibly a very important takeaway from the whole experiment, right? Because it's giving you an indication of your distance with your inner source of creativity. Yeah, and it's bringing up to our conversation the fact that a part of who you are is a prison guard, keeping the artist within you captive, right? We've developed highly critical minds, in part from education, and that can be so very useful, right? And at the same time, if our critical mind can takes all the place of our mind, then it can also be incapacitating, in fact, right? Now, that critical mind will tell us, oh, you can't do that, what's the point, forget about it, this is nonsense, don't even try, don't waste your time, yeah? And then we are also prisoners of those people who say, come on, be serious, be real. I mean, you're not an artist, you know, you have no taste, you have no talent. Artists are born, they're not made. Now, let me argue that on that last point, artists are born, they are not made. Those people are right. We are all born artists. Remember your creativity when you were a kid, right? You know, Picasso said that because he was so gifted, right? When he was 5 years old, he was able to paint more or less like Raphael. And he said it took him a lifetime to be able to paint like a 5-year-old kid, which, by the way, is how he made big money and when he really started to make big money, right? Because, of course, he had resuscitated the inventiveness of his childhood, right? Through a lot of inner work. Now, let's go further and then I'd like to share a few points about the value of reconnecting with your artistic mind, right? At a deep level, it's immensely important because it kicks off a journey towards more freedom, which will be very, very valuable as you reinvent the future, right? And so what's really important is to acknowledge that you and me, we've been designed by the culture, education, and societies that we've grown with, right? And if we want to reinvent the way we are, we lead, we coach, we've got to be aware of the constraints this path we had to grow have put around us, right? In a way, we've got to stop being a product designed by the culture that we grew in. We've got to stop judging, deactivate at times that critical mind, and instead start valuing and seeking diversity of inspiration. That's when our imagination and our inner world can start shyly to come out, right? And then the artistry appears, and then you kind of become excited by situations that are really unknown, unfamiliar, and used to be perhaps frightening or just uninspiring, right? So that's where you come to a point where you are able to reinvent. In short sentence, a symptom that you growing your inner artist, your creativity, your capacity for reinvention is when the unknown becomes like a great limitless space for you to create. Yep. And I perhaps will just briefly invite you to consider that to unlearn a bit of what you may have learned, there is a relatively easy way. It's to get interested in other cultures, right? Say you've been educated in the West, then your conception of time is very linear. If you've grown in the East, in Asia, right? At a deep level, your conception of time is cyclical. In terms of reasoning, you could be educated to be rational or analogical. Analogical means processing your thoughts through analogies, comparisons, metaphor, in fact, right? So, for example, to be concrete, right? If I would be able to write Chinese characters, most probably my thinking would be quite developed on the metaphorical side, right? Because Chinese characters are metaphors. They draw us. They make sense from an assembly of various concepts. In fact, right? We can make sense with belief systems and thinking patterns, or we can make sense from personal experience, as we tend to value in Asia, right? We can see the truth as absolute or relative. We can learn with goals in mind, or we can learn in journey-related and emergent fashion, in fact, right? So we can learn from what is said, we can learn from the silence and what is not said, and we can grow searching for knowledge, or we can grow searching for wisdom, right? So there are so many ways where you can unlearn and relearn with more degrees of more sources and more degrees of freedom of reinvention, right? So hey, now let's do a second exercise and be practical. So the second exercise is to enrich your forward thinking with fresh creativity. Yeah. And I'm going to play a series of photographs with a bit of music. But before, I need to tell you what the game is. So the game is actually, as you consider moving from where you are now to where you aspire to be in the future, reflect about what does your desired future need more of from you as a leader, as a business person, or as a coach? Yeah, what does your desired future need more of from you? Yep, and so I'm going to trigger your intuition and your imagination by just playing for you a series of 16 photographs. Yeah, and my invitation is grab your smartphone, and be ready to take a photo of those images I'm going to play for you, because those photos are kind of sending some message to you, right? All right, are we ready? Smartphone in hand, camera activated, ready to click? Let's go through these 16 pictures and see which ones have a resonance in your mind about what your desired future needs more of. perhaps you can take a shot of those 16 pictures I'm showing here, in case you didn't have a chance to get a shot of those who inspired you something, right? And of course, you're going to receive the slide deck in a few minutes as we wrap up our conversation today, right? So then my invitation to you, now that you've selected a few pictures that inspired you something about your future, right? I call that fresh creativity. My question is, what is the story that is unfolding? We don't have all the time we could have today to do that exercise, but really the exercise I'm inviting to do you to do perhaps a bit later is, okay, those pictures. What story are they telling me about the future I want and what it needs more of? Okay. So I'm going to invite you to do this exercise after our call, right? It's really important. That's a very concrete way to generate fresh creativity and forward thinking at the same time, yeah? Now, next, I'd love to go to a moment where I'm wishing to offer a few tips about what helps reinvent your leadership going forward, right? And it's about the how and the what. And I'd love to start with Asian philosophers because I never cease to be inspired by their study. In fact, so Lao Tzu, 3,500 and a few more years ago, said the way to do is to be. Now, what does this evoke for you as a leader or as a coach? One way to read this, of course, is that once you have identified who you have to be as a leader or as a coach, then you free yourself from a lot of burden that people carry when they're not clear about who they are, right? And then perhaps you remember Picasso was not just a painter in the video. He was not just a painter, he was painting, yeah? And his doing was just an emanation of his being, right? And so my point here is when you've gained clarity about who you want to be as a leader or as a coach or as a person, then your doing becomes a part of who you are. And then that's a way to read. The way to do is to be. The way you do, once you're clear on who you are, who you want to be, the way you do is natural, right? It's like a prolongation of your being, right? Now, another thought is knowing when not to do anything is the key to having everything done. It may not be from Lao Tzu, but from some of his pals in the Wu Wei group of philosophers at the same period back in China, right? And I would say for leaders, that can mean having a way of being that stimulates initiative and ownership in their people. Yeah, we've discussed that at length in previous webinars, right? And for coaches, that means trusting that the quality of your presence alone will inspire and energize your coaches sufficiently to take ownership for their transformation. Another quote is from Confucius about the same time back in history, right? Who said, everything has its beauty, but not everyone sees it, yeah? And for me, I think for leaders and coaches alike, right? That means seeing deep inside your people, seeing their diamond, their potential, their hidden potential, their hidden motivation drivers, right? And then, of course, when you see them, right, then you can activate them, right? I've chosen, as you can see, a picture with stains, right? Because to me, looking at people's stains, so to say, right, is also a way to find their hidden talents that can be in the stains, in fact. Right? And it's very important in coaching. Of course, we're not judgmental, right? That we look at the stain and how they can be a source of inspiration, right? Stains can be, and in my experience, are often uncut diamonds, yeah, to speak like Lady Gaga. Now, another perhaps tip for leaders and coaches, right, is you see what you're pure enough to receive. That's a part of what artists can do, right? And for coaches in particular, that means having freed yourself from your internal chatter and absorbing the whole of what your client is, regardless of what you would, with another hat on the head, believe they express, right? And then you can connect at all levels with your clients. And for leaders, it's the same, right? It's about freeing you from your internal chatter, your judgments, your inner critic, right? And seeing situations and people without pollution in your mind, right? And then you see new things, right? Yeah. So one more tip for leaders and for coaches that stem from artistry, right? It's the simplification. It's so very important that you give yourself a chance to step back regularly and simplify, right? So you just get out what's cluttered in your mind and force yourself to make things simple. You remember Einstein talking about the importance of simplicity, right? Once we can express things in a simple manner, we've really reached a deep understanding of a situation. Yeah. And another tip is about uncluttering your mind, actually, right? And your leadership and your coaching. And I introduced the idea with the story of Michelangelo, you know, who one day was given a huge block of white marble and he had to sculpt. And then came a little kid who looked at Michelangelo, who was staring at the marble block, right? And asked the artist, "Hey, Michelangelo, what are you going to do?" And Michelangelo said, "I'm going to free the angel inside." And so my invitation for you as leaders and coaches, right, is to really investigate what needs to happen for you to gain more freedom in the way you are, the way you lead, the way you coach, right? What do you have to move away because it's a burden that's not valuable, in fact? What can you let go of to move forward better? And perhaps in conclusion, I'd love to talk briefly about what happens when leaders partner with their artistic mind. When you show up as an artist in leadership or in coaching, right, you've let go of control, right? And therefore, you create a space for others that's not controlling, in reverse, that is open, totally free, and tapping into their own inspiration, creativity, artistry at some point. And in a way, you become, as a person, right, a compelling inspiration for people to create, in fact, right? And then, of course, you can collectively reinvent the future for your business or your coaching practice. Also, as an artist, you've stopped judgment, you unlearned some of the way of thinking, judging, criticizing you had gotten from your education, and you become more appreciative of people and situation. And you tend to see people, I've written here, as living an evolving work of art, and that's the ultimate goal, perhaps. But at least you see them as evolving, as people who are unleashing their potential, in fact, right? And your appreciation for their potential is felt and encourages them and emboldens them to bring out more of their best. Yep. And finally, as artists in leadership or coaching roles, right? You've freed yourself. That's the most important part of any attachment to bodies of thinking or philosophies. And then you are obviously willing and able to be transformed by the people and the interactions you have in your life. And that is going to nourish the continuous inspiration, nourish continuously the inspiration, your inspiration for reinvention. Yeah. With this, I'd love to say two simple things. Do appreciate your uniqueness. That's really a way to start bringing out the inner artist within you as a leader or as a coach. And new beginnings are often disguised as painful endings. And so that's a more general comment about our period, right? We are in a difficult, painful situation, and we can consider this then as a new beginning. It's up to us what we make of that possibility of new beginning. My conviction is that unleashing more artistry in the way we lead and we coach will be a promising way to stop on the path. And that's where I add one more glass to cheer to your future enjoyment as you unleash your artistry in your leadership. With this, going to a Q&A, and I'm turning to Teddy to check in questions. We have,
Thank you, Jean-Francois. Thank you. The first question we have is, how can we go deeper into leadership reinvention?
Yeah, well, our very short session today is kind of an appetizer, right? I wish we had far more time, but then tonight, in 3 hours exactly from now, I'm offering a free public webinar that tackled the same topic with far more time on hand. It's 90 minutes instead of 30, and so I invite you to join. I think Teddy, perhaps you'll be able to put in the chat box, right? One way for you to register, right? And then we go deeper and a bit more slowly, right? So it's more enjoyable, yeah. And yeah, so that's what I can say, Teddy.
Thank you, Jean-Francois. The next question we have is, what discipline do you suggest to start freeing the artist within us?
Okay. So this is a journey, right? And you've got to make meetings with yourself to really reflect, right? And get in touch with your creativity. And what I would love to invite you to do is to re-watch this webinar. We've been very fast, as always. I apologize for that. But there's a lot that perhaps you can gain as you re-watch the episode, in fact. And indeed, I invite you to do that critically important exercise about what the story that's unfolding when you look at these pictures I've shown you, and what are about your desired future, and then work out who you're going to be to attain that future you desire as a leader or as a coach. I'm afraid with this, we run out of time. As always, I'm the worst time manager in the world. I apologize, as always, for that, right? We've got to go through a few parish announcements. The first one is my invitation to partner with your artistic mind and reinvent your way forward as a business leader or as a coach, right? With a program that I'll be offering with a colleague of mine in the first half of next year. You can, if you're interested, download the brochure here. And I guess, Teddy, you putting the link in the chat box. So I'll be happy to discuss with you personally about that program to check if it could be of value to you and to your future, right? And then, like I just mentioned before, you're most welcome in 3 hours from now to join a longer webinar that's titled Leap from Mastery to Artistry, that I will facilitate with my colleague Elena Espinal, who is in Mexico. So we will have people from 5 continents again for 90 minutes. It's going to be a party. And then if you miss that tonight, because this is such short notice, we'll, together with Elena, we'll offer the same experience on November 25th, and again with people from all over the world. In fact, you're most welcome to join the party. And then, of course, we've got our bi-weekly webinar on the 12th of November. That will be the finale of this season of 10 webinars. And it'll be about 12 boosters of greatness and 12 busters as well. And it will be inspired by some of what we've reflected about in our series, and of course, other inspiration, right? So it'll be packed with actionable insights, and I hope a great way to wrap up our series of conversations over the last few weeks. Yeah. With this, few e-gifts for you. First, that fascinating article from BCG about thinking biologically, and then exploring the unknown from Korn Ferry. And then why we need imagination now more than ever from Harvard Business Review, and then something about creativity and empathy skills for the future by Murilo Gunn. As always, when you receive the slide deck that perhaps Teddy you've already put in the chat box, right? It's in the chat box. You can just click on those pictures on the slide, and you access the article. Yeah, I wanted to conclude today with that quote from Rumi, right? As you walk out, the way appears, because I kind of triggered your imagination, your creativity today, just a bit, right? Planting seeds, right? And my invitation to you is just continue to walk on that absolutely fuzzy path, right? Especially if the whole webinar seems confusing to you, then that could be the most valuable lesson from it, because it would be it would suggest that you can connect more closely with your sources of inspiration, that will help you reinvent or adjust profoundly the way you lead, the way you are, and the way you coach for the future, and therefore come up with a new value proposition as a person, as a leader, as a coach for the world, and contribute to making our world an even a better and better place. And that's what we go for. Thank you so much for joining today again from 5 continents. It's such an honor each and every time, and so much gratitude to you. I am going to bring on Jonathan with the stretching moment that you're waiting for. Yeah. And wish you all the very best. And I already look forward to seeing you on the 12th of November at the same time. And perhaps, if I am lucky, to see you in 3 hours from now for a deeper exploration of our topic today. Thank you again. Take care, stay safe, and continue to unleash more and more of your greatness.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 9th episode of our series, How to Reduce the Negative Impact of Office Syndrome. Today, I'm going to show you a new exercise to improve your posture. All right, just like I did 2 videos ago, I'm gonna use a wall for this exercise. So I'm gonna lean against the wall, making sure that my ears are in contact with the wall, my hips as well, my shoulders, the back of my head. Okay. I will close the jaw, make sure I bring my chin down, and this time I'm gonna bring my arms this way, and I'm gonna try to lift my arms up by keeping the contact to the wall, like that. This way, and I come back. Okay, I make sure that my hands are always in contact with the wall, my head as well, and my shoulders as well. Okay, I'm gonna go for 5 to 10 reps. Make sure that your chin is as close as possible to your chest. Keep the jaw locked and breathe through the nose. That's it. Go for 5 to 10 reps and try to go for 3 to 4 sets. I hope you enjoyed this little exercise and see you in the next video.